Greetings to our viewers. My name is Bertha Nherera, and I work with Participatory Ecological Land Use Management. Today we are on another episode where we are going to talk about My Food is African. And in this particular episode, we are going to talk mainly about seed and mechanization. My Food is African is a continental campaign that is being undertaken in 13 African countries, including Zimbabwe. And it's being undertaken under the auspices of Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. And the main objective of My Food is African is really to raise awareness and to have concrete practice in terms of behavior change for Zimbabweans to consume our traditional foods. Particularly, we are also looking at the young people, and we are also looking at the policymakers supporting this. So today in this episode, I'm joined by Mr. Mushita, and I'll ask you to introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me. My name is Mushita, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Technology Development Organization. And I'm glad to be here today.
Okay, so Mr. Mushita, today we would want you to share with us why seed and why mechanization are important in our food systems, and as we also talk about My Food is African.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think seed is very important as it is the genesis of agriculture, as we know. And seed is quite key and a key element in the production, processing, distribution, and consumption of food. As we know, Africa is very much, facing challenges in realizing food self-sufficiency. And we know that 20 million people in Africa are food deficit and hungry. So we need to address this gap with increased production of locally foods in Africa, especially millets, sorghums, legumes, which are really African. And it's very important that we support the production, processing, distribution, and supply of these food systems, because they are more sustainable, they are adaptive to the African ecological conditions, they are also very climate resilient. And we need then to have some systems in place which relate to policy issues, policy supportive mechanisms, which relate to technological adoption and advancements, which relate to research and also promoting the nutrition consumption of these foods in Africa.
Okay. I would like you to say a little bit more about issue of mechanization as it relates to production maybe of our grains.
Yeah, production and mechanization are key elements, because I think if we have more advanced technology, it also would give us increased productivity of these crops. So mechanization may be in the context of maybe conservation agriculture. If we mechanize that component of production, it means that our farmers will be able to increase the hectareage of their production. They will also diversify the dietary food which they produce. And the mechanization will be handy to also minimize the labor, actually, which we find that most of the women are really challenged, because then they are doing all this by hand. So if we mechanize conservation agriculture, that will lighten the burden on the labor aspect, but also the other side of it is that will increase productivity as much as possible. And the youth and women would find it more, attractive when this whole production aspect is mechanized, and they can also link and with the markets, because then you also bring in the kind of market linkages with the technologies which are there today. So it becomes more attractive and less labor, costly. Yeah. And I think agriculture would then realize and obtain a kind of production trajectory.
Okay. Mr. Mushita, we have been working in this field for quite a while. And the issue of mechanizing, we have been talking a lot about it, but it seems like we are not making much progress on mechanization. What do you think could be the challenges, and probably how we could really, move on, so that we can bridge this gap of mechanization, and we really see us mechanizing?
Yeah, our organization has really embarked on this on a trial basis. I think we are in about 4 districts of Zimbabwe, in Motoko, in UMP, Mudzi, and Cholocho, where we have these 2-wheel tractors now, where farmers are actually doing experimental research on them, and they are increasing the area which they normally cultivate. And so because of that, we have seen quite some expansion of the production landscape. And we are also using the thresher, so that once they harvest the sorghums and millets, they no longer need to pound these crops by hands, but they just put them in the machine. The machine will process, and then the grain will come out. So that is also another way we need to promote mechanization. And we are working together closely with the Institute of Agriculture Engineering within the Ministry of Agriculture. They have produced 2 prototypes also of the machines, and we are testing them now on a pilot basis. We have also one machine which is drilling holes.
Okay.
So you can do 2 acres per day.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
with that machine, which is very light, any women, children can use that machine. And we think that in the next 4 or 5 years, I think we'll see really highly mechanized agriculture production, particularly with smallholder farmers, using these machines, which are really quite important and lessen the burden for agriculture. We are also using the 2-wheel tractor in some small groups, which they are also, experimenting with. And once these technologies have taken or have been modified and made adjustments, we hope that we will be able to popularize the machines, and then the mechanization will increase, and hence also agriculture productivity will take off.
Okay. Thank you very much. We come to the end of our first segment, where we were talking about the importance of seed, and we were talking about the importance of mechanization, and really making practical steps to assist our smallholder farmers that are producing the food. There's been a lot of talk about the issue of it being labor intensive, so the mechanization will help, and also particularly the issue of ensuring that we have got quality grain that will be coming from the threshers that Mr. Mushita spoke about. Thank you. Welcome back, our viewers, to our second segment, where we are discussing about My Food is African, and we are looking at the issues of seed and the issues of mechanization. So, Mr. Mushita, I wanted us to discuss, as we look at the seed and the mechanization, what gaps do you see, or what gaps have you observed that you may want to share with us today?
Yeah, with the aspect of seed, I think what we are working on currently is that we need to have the farmer-managed seed systems recognized, and that farmers will have the opportunity and capability to produce good quality seeds, which is affordable, accessible, and timely to the farmers. So in this regard, last week we have been discussing the policy aspect to try and craft a policy in Zimbabwe which looks at the production of good quality seeds of smallholder farmers. Because availability currently is not assured. Most of the farmers are using their mostly retained seed. So what we are doing is to train and capacity build smallholder farmers so that they are, competent enough to produce quality seeds which can be used by other farmers. And in this regard, we feel that there's need to have a policy framework So we had different stakeholders discussing this aspect, and I think the ball is rolling now to look into the modalities of coming up with an appropriate policy framework, which will support and capacity build smallholder farmers to produce good quality seed. And the challenge has been that there hasn't been investments in the production and distribution and supply of good quality seed of smallholder farmers. Hence, they've been using retained seed. And we feel that I think with an enabling policy framework, they will be able to enter into the seed sector development, and those groups of farmers can be supported with capacity building, so that they understand what it takes to produce good quality seed. On the mechanization side, I think we have been promoting this for the last 2 seasons now. The challenge is by and large the cost of the technology, the accessibility of the technology, the affordability of the technology. And those aspects needs to be addressed, as then the technologies will be privatized and key players from the private sector will come to supply those machines. And I think we need to have a framework where we can support these smallholder farmers, probably linked with some banks who can give them loans to actually be able to purchase these machines, so that then they don't feel marginalized and they are not able to access these very key and appropriate technologies. And that once we have such a framework where we have the different stakeholders coming into play, the government themselves, the private sector, development partners all together really supporting this smallholder farmer mechanization initiative, they'll be able then to competently afford these machines. And we believe that as they increase their production and productivity, they will be able to market all these surplus grain, which then they can realize income, support their families, and also have some byproducts which will come up from this increased production.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mushita. I just wanted to get more information. Would you know roughly how much such a machine would cost? Like if we look at a thresher, how much would the thresher cost? Or if you're looking at the tractor, small machines that you're talking about, did you call them tractors?
Yeah, two-wheel
tractors. How much
yeah,
would
the
they
two-wheel
cost?
is around $2,000.
$2,000. Okay.
Plus or minus $2,000.
Plus or minus $2,000.
And then the drilling machine is about $300, which drill holes. It's around $300.
Okay, this one is for planting.
Yeah, for planting.
Okay.
You can drill your holes,
Okay.
with that machine.
Okay.
And you can do 2 acres per day.
Okay.
Which I think is quite good, because then many of the farmers currently doing it by hand would do about 0.2 of a hectare.
Okay. For
the whole season. But if we can then scale it up to about 1 hectare or 2 hectares per household, we hope that then we can have a 4-fold kind of production matrix.
And price for threshers?
The price for threshers, they are around $500, $600 per machine.
All right.
And it does 2.5 tons per an hour.
Okay.
So that would actually lighten the burden so much.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know, would you know if there are any planters that can be used that are ox-drawn?
Yeah, even this two-wheel tractor has a planter.
Oh, it has a planter.
It has a planter.
Okay.
So you can also, the farmers can use the planter, and that will make...
Using their ox-drawn...
They're using the same tractor.
Yeah,
okay. So the same tractor has a planter, and they can put their seed in the planter, and the tractor will do the rest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mushita. Any parting words to our viewers that you might have?
Yeah, I think we need to make concerted efforts from all angles, from the policy side, from the technological side, from the farmer capacity building aspect, so that then we support the production, distribution, processing, and consumption of these traditional crops, if we want to call them, so that they can become the mainstay of our dietary diversity and food security and food sovereignty in Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Africa at large, because these are very important crops which our forebears used to actually produce and consume. More so with the advent of climate change, these crops become very critical and very important, that we need to invest a lot of our efforts to promote their production, distribution, and consumption, and this will make us more food secure and sustainable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, our viewers. We've come to the end of our episode, which we've been discussing about the importance of seed and mechanization in this campaign of My Food is African. Thank you very much for watching.